show that is dedicated to the Seattle sports fans. My name is Dave, this is Kevin, and this is Seahawks Weekly. Before we jump into this, make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button, turn on your notification bells, thumbs up, thumbs down if you got to. That's way up to you. And also make sure you leave comments in the comment section down below. We had some great comments this week about the defensive coordinator position and who they thought that we should bring in at Donatel. I thinking that it's going to leaning towards Gus Bradley. Kevin, do you have a leaning that right now? Because it's going to come down any minute.
I think I'd like to see Ed come to Seattle or Shane. Those are my two picks.
All right, I'm thinking that they're going to go down memory lane and bring in Gus Bradley, but what do we know? So, Kevin, this week, our name came into question. We are Seafan Sports, and we are dedicated to you, the Seattle sports fan. And this week, we as fans were called into question by a former player, Richard Sherman. Mm-hmm. I took exception, and Kevin was not as upset with the number 25's comments. Kevin, give me a little bit of your stance on why why Richard Sherman was correct. Richard and Cliff Avril were correct. And then I will come by on the other side and I'll tell you why they were wrong.
Well, okay. It sounds fun.
It sounds fun.
The way I look at it is I don't really take offense by anything they said. I mean, they said that we're spoiled, which I, as a lifelong Seahawk fans, the last 10 years, I have been spoiled. I've gone through the ups and the downs. Every year, I'm excited. But you know what? In order to stay an elite team, we got to have some ups and downs. We've got to have seasons that suck. This is one of them. Now, is it frustrating? Yes. Do I have high expectations every year? Absolutely. I think we should win every year. But the reality is, it is hard to win in the NFL. It is hard to stay at the elite level that we have been on for the last 10 years. So I really didn't have a problem with anything that they said. I really thought that they hit some really key points. First of all, Cliff said we got to find our identity. And Richard was pretty much saying that our identity hasn't changed. It just disappeared for the last year and a half. And our identity is run the ball, win the turnover battle, play solid defense, get stops on third down. The run game is our best defense because time management, clock management, everything management. And I really believe the last two games of the year against San Francisco and Arizona, they really played solid football. I mean, in our identity. So I also thought that it was kind of interesting that I've been saying all year that we need a run game, that I did not have my faith was not in Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. I didn't believe that they were going to stay healthy all year. And I really believe that if we don't have a run game, we have to have Russ throw the ball more. We shouldn't let Russ cook. And that is another thing Sherm said is Russ can't cook. We need to run the ball. We need to win the turnover battle. The more Russ is cooking, the more turnovers are going to happen. So I really just didn't think that it was that big of a deal, and I didn't take offense to it.
Okay, but I understand. And you know what? They did make some valid points. They made some good valid points that first of all, losing Pete would be a mistake.
Yes,
is one of the things that they did comment on, and which is funny because one of the things that Richard did on his way out the door was torch Pete and talk about his kumbaya sessions and things like that, saying that his style was not viable in today's NFL. Is what he was saying on his way out the door, and now he's come back to say, "Oh my gosh, his formula, which is run the ball, time of possession, don't turn the ball over, play solid defense, and you'll be successful in the NFL, is exactly what Richard thinks now is. But it's the what he was saying, the referring to us to the fan base that supported him, and when we chose the organization over bringing pitchforks and fire to Lumen Field and saying, keep Richard here, that didn't happen. And now the whole fan base is basically spoiled and stupid and doesn't understand the game of football, doesn't understand that there's a that you can't look at us and think that there could be a better alternative out there that may cost less. Unfortunately, that is the game of, or the business of football, is when you have a player like what we're experiencing right now with Bobby Wagner, where we're either going to have to restructure his deal or he's going to have to play in another uniform, which will be awful for me. But if you look around the NFL right now, what player plays with the same team their whole career? It does not happen. Even the greatest quarterback in the NFL history was basically given up on by the New England Patriots. So you as a player, unfortunately, have to understand that the team is eventually you are going to price yourself out of services with that team. And we're going to have to look for a cheaper alternative. And to think that us as fans are not going to cheer for the laundry, but we're going to cheer for the player, is just like I was explaining to you earlier. Eventually, Russell will probably not be the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, and there'll be a new quarterback, and I'll have to rally behind that new quarterback. I may still like Russell, but I'm not going to be beating down the door of John Schneider because he made a move that may have made Seattle more successful to keep the team viable.
Well, and I also don't think that he was talking to the lifelong Seahawks fans. A lot of the bandwagon fans, the guys that jump on and jump off because the team is doing so great. And so, I don't know if he ever said the fans were stupid. He just said that,
he inferred it. Sorry.
Yeah. A couple things that they did talk about. It is hard to win in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And to build
Absolutely.
what they built was unbelievable. And, Cliff said, he played for an 0-16 Detroit team the year before he came to Seattle. And so the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. And the other thing that Richard was talking about, was all pro football players,
right,
not grow on trees.
Absolutely.
You're only so many all pro players every year. And in order to be at that level, which Bobby is, it takes a lot of pressure. Now, I agree with you. And boy, I'd love to have Bobby stick around. I mean, have the utmost respect for him. But as a business side, as a fan, understanding that his production is going to go down, and to pay him $20 million next year just does not make feasible sense. Now, going back to Richard, in his podcast, one of the things he said was that, look, they cut me with Achilles injury. Now, they did go to him and ask him to take a pay cut. I get that. He said no. But when he said no, they cut him. Okay, if I'm Richard, if I'm the all-pro cornerback, I'm going to give the double barrel finger. I'm just going to say, hey, forget you guys. I'm going to go prove myself and win, and I will never play in Seattle again. So I understand why he's frustrated. I understand what's going on, and that fans can be over the top. And as a fan, I can be over the top, but I do not. When I watched the interview and listened to it, I didn't really have an issue with it at all. I know Richard is kind of a very, I don't know if I want to use the word arrogant, but he's very full of himself. He has a lot of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you're a trash talker, you say things to stir up conversations, to stir up other people's motives or whatever motivation. And it was always a great thing when he was on our team, but when he wasn't on our team, we had problems with it. And we talked about this before. Gary Payton is one of the all-time greatest trash talkers in the world who could back it up. Richard Sherman, great trash talker, could back it up. And so, I
But
really
here's the difference between Gary and Richard is that Gary is an ambassador for the city of Seattle, and Seattle cut him or traded him. I honestly, to be honest with you, and he still is not giving the city of Seattle a double barrel salute.
Well, if I remember back though, Gary actually left to sign with the Lakers to win a championship.
Sure.
And so, he's the one that left us, not the other way around. I'm just saying that if Seattle cut me during Achilles injury and wanted to re-sign me at a lower deal, I don't think I would be happy with them either. And that's all I'm saying.
But eventually you have to look at it and you have to say that it's a business and Seattle making a business decision. So,
right. And in 10 years, he probably will think that.
Hopefully, maybe. I don't know. He seems to think he's going to be in the Ring of Honor. So maybe someday he'll be raising that 12th man flag and all will be forgiven.
Yep.
But right now, to be honest with you, he did say a lot of good points, but he really said it in a way that kind of irritated me as a Seattle fan because you know what? At the end of the day, I'm still a person that goes out and purchases merchandise and goes to games and does things of that nature. And, as far as I'm concerned, I have a right to say what I have to say because, shoot, I have a podcast right here on YouTube, Seafan Sports. So again, if you guys believe in what Kevin's saying, that he's right, make sure you drop that in the comments below. And if you side with Big Dave, make sure you tell me that very well as well.
I do have one thing to say though. If I had the opportunity to hire Richard Sherman as a corner coach, I'm hiring him tomorrow. The guy was not the most athletic person ever to play football, but he studied. He was incredibly bright. Exactly. And if you can teach that, what he did and what he has upstairs, oh my gosh, what he could teach other players. And he made other players around him better. And so I'm just thinking if we can hire him as a coach, bring him on.
All right, Kevin, you got anything else for us?
Go Hawks.
Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl.